One of these things is not like the other.
Gonna wear a puppet.
Oh my God. Is that what we have to do, is wait for that to go on?
I got 6 o'clock. We got 6 o'clock? I got 6 o'clock, David.
It's exactly 6.
But he's got to put it on the screen for that.
No. Just yell at Peter.
I'd like to call to order the Select Board meeting of September 12th, and pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, we are going into executive session and will return at 6:30 p.m. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
And the chair says yes. We will adjourn and be back at 6:30. Thank you. Let the call the Select Board meeting of September 12th to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing as we honor our veterans, both past and present, and our glorious health workers. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Okay. It is 6:38.
Right on time.
Pretty good. Okay. We have signed the warrant, and that is done?
That's good.
Okay. Doing great so far, then, are we? Yeah, thank you.
We can go
Okay.
now.
We have a hearing from Eversource. Is anyone here from Eversource? Okay. Toughest job in America, right
Oh,
here.
yeah, it's not easy.
I love it.
This is open up a public hearing. And could you introduce yourself to us?
Jessica Elder, Eversource, representing Eversource.
Thank you. And could you state your case?
Sure. Good evening, members of the board. Thank you for having me this evening. Eversource is proposing to install one joint-owned pole. Joint-owned pole meaning that Verizon and Eversource own both the pole. The pole is labeled 153 over 80.5. Will be installed on the side of the road in front of 490 Fonts Corner Road,
Where is
and will run across the street to 493 Fonts Corner Road to a private pole. A pole on private property, should I say.
it? Oh, right.
This work is to provide service to the customer at 493 Fonts Corner Road, which I believe is a new cannabis shop there. Should take 1 to 2 days to complete the work, and we will start within 1 to 10 days once this is approved. Detail will be necessary. As you know, Fonts Corner Road is a pretty busy road.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Having heard none, any questions from anyone here in the public in favor of the project? Anyone here not in favor of the project? Against? Okay. At this point, we can close the public hearing. This hearing is no longer. Okay, how are we doing so far? Okay.
Great.
So we have no questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, just make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Say aye.
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 Opposed, none? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay. It's my best public hearing so far. Okay. 6:41, we have a change of manager at BJ's Wholesale Club. Anyone here? Okay. Thank you for waiting for us. Could you state your name and...
Dawn Goldstein, Club Manager, BJ's in Dartmouth.
For the poll location.
Oh, the pool, okay, okay. Okay. You are the new manager.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
No.
Comments?
My only comment is to just be sure that we uphold the alcohol license.
Absolutely. I'm actually going to be a tips trainer. In a couple weeks, I'm going for training myself. I'm tip certified now. I have another manager that's tip certified trainer, and we trained all the leadership team too as well right now. So we're getting all the team members.
And
as
to
well.
live within that actual area that's locked in with us as far as permitting is concerned. Okay.
That's essentially why you're here, because you're selling liquor in the store, so.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I had the liquor license in Dedham when I was there too as well.
Great.
Any
Thank you.
questions?
Thank you.
How's business?
Very good.
Okay.
You guys all shop there, I hope.
No, not me.
I'll
Maybe
show
I
you
will
my.
now, but
I'll
I-
show you my card.
Come see me when you come in.
I may have to start, but up to now I have not.
Can I get an upgrade?
I know. Come see me next time you come in.
Oh, my God.
Take care of you guys.
Right viewing in public. Okay. Okay. Are we ready to
Make a
vote?
motion to approve.
Yeah, I'll be second that.
Second?
Yeah,
Any
second.
comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, none? Unanimous. Thank you for coming.
Thank you guys. Have a great night.
Thank you.
With you, no news is always good news.
Good luck.
Thank you. Okay, I gotta go back and close the store. Okay, new business, we are ready. The appointment to South Coast Bikeway Alliance. Mr. McGinnis?
Yes, so we had an application to be on the South Coast Bikeway Alliance because Mr. Let's see, I'm trying to
Mr. Barnes.
Barnes.
Soon we forget.
previously on it,
right?
but Mary Ellen Boyle is interested in taking that place and being added to the alliance.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Gracie?
yes, could you ask Mr. McGinnis to turn his mic towards him? Thank you.
Okay.
Reprimanded, huh?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
How's
Frank.
that?
That's much better.
Thank you, Mr. Gracie. I guess I should all mention this point in time. Mr. Gracie is at home, and he is Zooming the meeting, and so far, so good. That's why there's 4 of us here and plus 1. Thank you. Okay. Is Mary Ellen here?
Yes.
Want to come
Come on up.
forward?
Where's the camera? It seems so weird to put your back to him.
Strange,
you know?
very strange. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mary
Hello.
Ellen Boyle. I've been volunteering for the South Coast Bikeway since I moved to Dartmouth 7 years ago. And now I'd like to be formally appointed, if I could. That will allow me to be an officer and to vote.
Great.
Excellent.
I hope you read the article about our fundraising ride yesterday.
did,
It was
yeah.
very successful, very fun.
Even Mr. Barnes was nice enough to show up as a
He was volunteering as spokesperson.
great. Thanks for your service with
Well,
us.
any questions, anything?
Okay, any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none? Thank you very, very
you.
much. We
Thank you very
appreciate it.
much.
It's a
Good
great
night.
alliance, and it does great work.
Thanks for all your work, too.
Okay. Okay. Next we go to number 3. B is a tax title process timeline update.
Gary Carrera, our interim director of budget and finance, is here to give us an update.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Chairman, tonight and the board. What I wanted to do was just give the board a brief overview of what we plan on doing for delinquent accounts for fiscal 19, 20, and 21. The pandemic played a big part of this, where we didn't really move forward on a lot of these properties. But now, seeing that we're out of the pandemic and we need to secure almost $350,000 of unpaid tax revenue to the town, we want to go ahead with that process. We've contracted with an attorney who is probably the #1 tax title attorney in the Commonwealth, Coppola and Coppola. They're out of Marblehead. They have significant references, about 188 cities and towns in Massachusetts they do business with. I had them send out certified notice to the residents this week. You'll see that as part of the timeline. And then as we go along, we'll hit these benchmarks to fulfill what we need to do to secure the 19. 19 has to be certified, has to be recorded with the registry no later than December 31st of this year. So time is of the essence for us to get this done. Now, in the meantime, what we're doing is, just even before we sent out the certified notices, I'm already getting residents in my office working out payment plans. So even though this is a very public process, I know for a lot of the residents it's a very personal process. So we have them in, I work with them as much as we can. We're not in the business of owning real estate. We don't want their real estate. We want to make sure that we're working with them, and my staff is working with them to work out a payment plan and get it paid off. And we give them a variety of options to do that. So as you see here, by November 7th, we will have everything leaned pretty much, and then recorded with the Registry of Deeds in Bristol County. And once that lien is put on, there's still an advantage to the resident to pay that off. It's not like we're going to be going out there and saying, okay, you owe us $10,000 or you owe us $5,000. We still give them the opportunity to pay this off. So I just wanted you to hear this from me before you potentially read about it in the paper, because we do have to place an ad. And I just wanted to give the board the courtesy to know what we're doing downstairs.
How much money's involved?
So for the aggregate, it's $260,000 in tax revenue, and then another $86,000 in interest and penalties, and demand fees and fines.
This is for
FY 19, 20, and 21.
3 years, okay.
So 19 has about 30 accounts, 20 has about 50 accounts, And some of them are subsequent, so some of them are,
Carryover.
yes.
Right.
And then 21 has about 120 accounts. So if you really think about it, our collection rate is pretty phenomenal. We have about a 99.6% collection rate.
Terrific.
Out of a whole tax levy, about 71 million, to have only delinquent 360,000 is pretty incredible.
Unbelievable. Yeah, wish our business was like that.
Really? Mr. McDonald, you have something?
Yeah, I do. Being in property management and seeing tax bills and whatnot, I'm a little concerned about the selling of the tax titles, especially to firms like Tallage. The only reason why is because Tallage is allowed, well, firms like Tallage are allowed to add on to what they purchased, I guess, reasonable fees. And that could be anywhere from 25% to 75% to 100% of what's the bill is for. So technically the homeowner could be paying double just to get their property back. I would much prefer to see the town to see if we can work with, these taxpayers to get them to pay before it goes to firms like Tallage and whatnot. Because I've seen it we just recently saw something in the paper regarding a woman losing her home, and she ended up suing, and she got $85,000 back. We don't need to do something like that. We don't need to have people's homes taken away from because of firms like this. And there have been some condos that I have managed where they have gone through Tallage, and it wasn't pretty. I can't do anything about it because that's that's between the city and the unit owner. But something like that, I think we have a responsibility to each taxpayer in town, especially whether they're having a problem, even if they're having a problem or they're just being delinquent, to see if we can accommodate them before we go to that harsh step. So I myself would like to see us try to exhaust all avenues before we go to the ultimate boogeyman thing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I'm not a fan of Tallage, I can tell you that. I'm not a fan of selling tax liens to a third party. And here are two reasons why. They pick and choose what they like for as far as, and they leave the town or municipality with everything that you can't redeem. And they also don't have the professionalism, in my opinion, okay, and this is only my opinion, to potentially knock on doors at 6 o'clock at night, make phone calls that are maybe unprofessional. And even though you're contracting with someone like that, they still represent the town, and you lose that control. Mm-hmm. I think it's better that the town take that process in house. Most communities do. Tallage was a great thing when maybe budgets were so strapped that they needed that dollar for dollar kickback into the general fund. I think you lose the touch with the resident. You lose that personal touch with the resident. They're going to work out payment agreements with them, but it's not going to be. You're correct. They're going to add on erroneous fees, and some communities like it. I just have never been a fan of it, and I think that we need to move away from that. And I know the folks that are at Tallage, they're professional, but they're also investors. So I think that the town needs to look at a different approach and take that in house. We lose that revenue. We lose that 16%. And one thing about putting a lien on a property, the town will never lose out because the town is a superior lien. The only other lien that's over the town is like a Medicare lien, a federal lien. But the town always has first position, always. So if you know that and you can work with the resident, why wouldn't we want to?
Work out payment plans.
Correct.
Things of that sort.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, and plus the fact that it's not a good look on the town, for any community that uses it. So it's just
and they've had issues in the past.
Right. And they have been, and we've used it in the past.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
So.
I'm going to second what Mr. McDonald was saying, having read recently the article in the paper about that woman. It's a very bad taste. It's a very bad look. And as you said, if we can do this in-house. I also want to ask that the letters that go out to the homeowners have a level of compassion in their verbiage, because it could be an oversight where they thought someone was paying this on their behalf, whether it be their bank or whatever. It could be a senior population that has misunderstood something, and I just don't want a bad taste in anyone's mouth from the town. I want the town to represent making it work, to being here to support them.
The only thing I can add to that is that the firm that we use, extremely professional. They understand what's going on the other end, if you will, and their first thing is, we're not coming down to, take your house. We want you to come in and just acknowledge the fact that there's a delinquency. So that's the first step. Most communities, and we never did this in the past, we never even went the step to send out the certified notice. I mean, $7 for a certified notice to get somebody's attention, I think, is worth the investment, especially if we're talking, $10,000, $15,000 in delinquency. Of
course.
To me, that's a no-brainer.
Firm but fair.
Mr. Gracie? Okay?
Yeah, I actually agree with everything that's just been said.
Okay, I could, for the sake of clarification, you hired the firm, and you supply the list. Could you?
Yes.
Could you just run through quickly how that works, so people understand?
Right. So we have our financial software system, which is the FY 19, 20, and 21 tax delinquencies. We then run those reports. We send them to them. They reviewed them. They sent me a notice of what the letter looked like. I approved it. We're mailing those out. Then what happens after that is we will get the response from the resident. So then we need to advertise that into the paper, the ones that we don't get response from legally. That sits in the paper for I would leave it in there for a month, and just to get maybe someone else's attention. Maybe someone's passed away. Somebody reads about it in the paper. Okay, this is so and so, an heir, or and we're going to go through every effort that we can so that before we even go to put the liens in the November timeframe, we've exhausted every single avenue to get in touch with these folks, and we have to do it legally. By law, if you have a residence and you have multiple owners on that, before this is perfected at the registry, we have had to show it's land court. It's like a regular court. We have to show due diligence that we've contacted every known heir, because what'll happen is the taking will be null and void. Then we have to start the whole process over again. So it doesn't really do anything if we do it incorrectly at the beginning. So that's it in a nutshell.
So I think what you're hearing from all of us is that this is first and foremost a compassionate process.
Yes.
That understands that there are mistakes, there are people miss things.
Correct.
And we're going to assume that we're going to take care of those in the best way. And there are others that will be different. But
Yes.
I think the message is loud and clear, and I think you obviously had it from the minute one as well, that this is a compassionate process. Any other
Thank
questions
you.
or comments? Great. Very professional, as you always are.
Thank you.
I actually have one more question. In the timeline, it says that December 31st, 2022, the process has to be done for FY19.
Yes.
Is that typical, like that 3-year?
3.5 years from the January 1st, so 19, we're already in fiscal 23.
Yeah.
We have to have the lien recorded.
Okay,
If we don't record that lien, we lose the right to lien.
All right, so it's imperative
Yes.
that you're working on
Oh, yes.
FY19. And then for FY20, that lien would be December 31st of 2023, right?
So we still have time for the other
We
2
still
years.
have time, but-
It's just that I
but the
wanted
process.
I wanted to get their attention a little bit earlier, so that.
Yeah,
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Well done, Gary. Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. All set?
Oh,
He's here for those too.
Yeah, Mass, Gary, don't go anywhere. Mass Homeowners Assistance Fund Grants Update.
So, having read through, as you know, I'm the interim Director of Finance and Treasurer, having read some of the emails that have come through the prior Treasurer's desk, there was one email that I had taken in particular was since January. I guess he was trying to get, the Homeowners Assistance Fund, which was put on by the Mass Affordable Housing Department, was looking to get completion of a form that would allow them to contact residents in town who had already applied for this fund, which is a $50,000 payment on someone's home if they're delinquent in real estate tax or on their mortgage. And this is funded by COVID, federally funded by COVID. So after quite some time, I researched it, and then I spoke to them over there, and they said they had about 5 or 6 residents in town that had applied but hadn't heard anything. So they're going to get the ball rolling on this. They're going to contact these residents that have applied. They will, and there's some criteria that's involved. You know, they have to have had some medical issues, or they had to have some issues where they were out of work for COVID. But I think that it was worth looking at, and letting the resident, they're going to do all the paperwork, they're going to do all the application process, but let them decide if, in fact, they can be eligible and potentially get some money paid for on either their mortgage or their taxes. This is handled by them. We're just the pass-through. I had to approve it, but he said he did have 5 or 6 residents that were looking to do this.
Is the sign-up period over? You just have to...
No, they're going all the way until the end of September the end of 2023, I think it was, 2023 at the beginning of... He said if there's any residents, they're not shutting them off. They're still running this program. So what I plan on doing is putting this on our website.
Perfect.
And letting people know that it's available.
Great idea.
Comments or questions? Anybody? Nope. Fantastic.
Perfect.
Great benefit to, hopefully can find as many people.
Yeah, I mean, just some stats. They've in Massachusetts, they've assisted almost 6,000 homes, $109 million in payments, 305 communities, and out of the 5,800, they approved to date like 4,000 of those applications.
It's a good
So
percentage.
It's pretty
yeah.
big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
And $50,000 is a nice
Yes.
help to someone.
Okay, all set. Anybody comments or questions? We move on to tax, I assume you're still up for this one too, Gary? Is it Taxpayers Assistance Fund Update? You're doing great so far.
As the board knows, I briefed them on this fund that the town had about a year ago now. We had about $10,000 in this account. It sat dormant for a number of years, I think almost a decade. Nothing was done with it. So I decided to put a little buck slip in people's bills, and it's basically a donation. It's a fund where residents will donate for another resident's behalf. We then raised about $11,000. We brought the fund up to 21. We went through all the applications. The deadline was June 30th. We then awarded last week or the week before last $1,000 to 10 residents. So these are folks that are there was no age restriction, not like the elderly exemption from the assessor's office. It was wide open. There was financial eligibility, but no age. So we brought the fund back to 10. I plan on sending the information back out on the tax bills to see if we can get it up again. So I think that was a good thing for the residents. Mm-hmm. It's all donation based, and $1,000 for the $500 for the third quarter and $500 to the fourth quarter will be applied.
Wow.
So it's a good program.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get the word out so other people can donate.
Perfect.
Anybody have any questions or comments? Great, keep up the good work on that one. Next, Director of Budget and Finance and Treasurer Search Committee appointments.
Yes, so I was here before the board probably like a month or so ago to talk about the process of the search for the next Director of Budget and Finance. So what that requires is an appointee of the Finance Committee, an appointee of the Board of Assessors, an appointee of the Personnel Board, which is the Select Board, as well as a town meeting rep appointed by the moderator and the Personnel Administrator. We've received appointment requests from the Finance Committee. They've selected Robert Garvin, their chair, to be the member of the Search Committee, and the Board of Assessors has elected to have Curtis Nunes be their appointment. And so the board can choose to formally appoint them tonight or wait until we hear back from the moderator on her selection. Which
I don't see any reason why we can't.
There's no reason to wait.
Make a motion that we approve the appointment of Robert Garvin from the Finance Committee and Curtis Nunes from the Assessors for the Finance Director's Search Committee.
I'll second that.
Second. Any discussions or comments?
Have we already appointed Sean McGinnis from our Personnel Department? Was Sean already appointed?
No. Yeah, but I had that on it too, yeah.
Yeah.
You want to redress that motion, Mr.
So can
McDonald?
we include him in this appointment?
He can be the.
He's from the
spokesperson
Personnel Board.
For the select board,
That'd be,
basically.
well, at least get these two, and then we can make another motion.
Okay, because
Okay.
we've already agreed that we're
Yeah.
going to put this. Okay,
Right.
so we're
So-
voting now on Mr. Garvin and Mr. Nunes.
Right.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
None? Thank you, Mr. Garvin and Mr. Nunes.
Okay, make a motion that the select board appoint Sean McGinnis as their representative on said committee.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Are you up to the job, Mr. McGinnis?
I think I am.
Good, okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
None.
None? Thank you, Mr. McGinnis.
Okay,
Okay,
and
you're-
just a brief
you're
update on
appointed.
the search. We've received applicants, not many applicants. We've re-advertised the position, so we have other applicants coming in. So we hope to contact the search committee at the end of the month or so to start looking at candidates.
So we now need someone as a town meeting rep, which would be appointed.
Moderator.
Appointed by the moderator,
Appointed by the moderator, and who is the fifth?
the personnel administrator. So Denise Bosang.
Oh,
So we just need to hear from
Just need the fifth person. Yep.
The moderator.
moderator, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And hopefully soon we'll have enough stuff till we can start reviewing. Okay. Ready to move on?
Yes.
Time to review the fall town meeting articles. Mr. McGinnis.
Yes, so we've put together the draft of the fall town meeting warrant. What you have in your packet is probably 90% complete. There's some minor edits that are still being made, but essentially what we usually do is two meetings, the meeting prior to the board voting on the warrant, we review the warrant for any questions or comments that need to be answered before final vote at the subsequent meeting. So we plan on having this final warrant before you on the next meeting on the 19th, which is a week from today, to vote. Because the way the timeline works, there's no meeting on the 26th, and we have to get the signed warrant to the clerk on the 27th.
I did not see the warrant in my package.
It's here. It's
Right here.
It's right after
The
Mr.
review of the,
Assessor,
the
Finance
Director of
Director.
Budget and Finance.
Page,
No, mine goes right to the donation bin bylaw.
page 18. 18?
That is very strange.
What is that?
I don't have it.
I don't know what version you have.
Is that the one, is that the select board version, or is that the one that's on the website?
I have the select board version. I have everything else.
Says draft.
I see that.
Yeah.
Okay. Talk amongst yourselves.
Mr. Gracie, did you have it in your packet?
Oh,
Mr.
no,
Gracie? Did you have the fall town meeting articles in your packet?
I actually don't know. I skim over a lot.
Page 18.
I don't know where you got those.
Page 17 was Mr. Nunes's mention.
It's a draft, that's kind of funny, that's not.
Oh, no. If I go to this.
Well, I can give you, oh, I don't have it.
Okay, that's all right.
Well, we can
We'll just-
review it.
All right, let me just,
18 is right. 18.
let me just put in my,
Yes, I do have it.
jeez. I want to say I did download it on Friday.
It's odd. But that front page you had is different than mine, too.
Oh.
That
Mine?
front page was different. I saw that it didn't have those kind of graphics.
Can't you send it? Can you send it? Try and send it to him? Just forward it.
Want to forward it to it for now, Sean?
I'm going to open it this way so that I can get,
Sorry for the delay, we're right with
oh,
it.
sorry.
It's okay.
It starts on page 18.
Excellent.
Very strange.
Very
Sorry,
strange.
I don't know how that would have happened.
I have it now.
So I'll go through the warrant articles to give you an overview. There are 4 community preservation committee articles. The first is the Dias Landing Marina expansion. They've appropriated $200,000 from the Dartmouth Community Preservation Act to fund the Waterways Marina expansion project. This covers the grant, the town match grant portion for the marina construction, which is $1.2 million. And this covers this $200,000 covers the town's required match. The Community Preservation Committee, Russell's Mills Road Land Conservation Phase 2. You can see this is incomplete. We're waiting on some information from the registry and the attorneys for the TNRT. This is $202,500 from the Preservation Act for Dartmouth Natural Resources Trust. The Phase 2 purchase of land in Russell's Mills Land Conservation Project. This is down in Russell's Mills Village. This completes a large parcel of conservation land that stretches from, I think, the bay all the way up to UMass Dartmouth. This has been in their plans for a number of years, and this helps to facilitate that purchase. Article 3 is the Regional Park Playground. The CPC is appropriating $512,086 for the replacement of the playground equipment at the Dartmouth Regional Park on the north side of town. This covers half of the costs. The other half of the cost is included in the fall capital article that's upcoming in the warrant. Article 4 is the Dartmouth Heritage Trail. This allocates $22,700 for the Dartmouth Select Board and Dartmouth Heritage Trail project, which completes signage for the bike trail that currently exists. So this covers those costs. Article 5, appropriation to the stabilization fund. This transfers the sum of $1,150,000 from the tax levy for the purposes of supplementing the stabilization fund. As you may recall, we changed the financial policies a few years ago. The previous policy had the stabilization fund goal of 7.5% of general revenues. We changed that to 10% of general revenues 2 years ago. We're currently at 9.3%, and this additional sum will put us about 9.7% of general revenue, so very close to our goal. Article 6 is the acceptance of the Capital Planning Committee report and funding for the FY23 capital plan. It is funded from the following: $4,401,138 from surplus revenue, $118,000 from the tax levy, $119,500 from the SOAR Enterprise Fund retained earnings, $93,375 from Water Enterprise retained earnings, and $150,000 from the Stabilization Fund for DCTV. The items that will be covered under capital are 3 town hall doors here in the rear of the building that need to be replaced. One is a facility maintenance van replacement for our facilities division at $53,000. Town energy efficiency improvements of $100,000, and the municipal broadband feasibility study that the board was, the committee was before the board a few weeks ago. That's $50,000 to do the feasibility study on the municipal broadband. The police department, 2 administrative vehicle replacements, $79,677. Dartmouth Public Schools, door and windows replacements and security upgrades, $250,000. Telephone and intercom system upgrades for $210,000. Playground improvements at all the elementary schools, $250,000. Parking lot repaving at the high school, $150,000. Classroom furniture and cafeteria table replacements at multiple schools, $150,000. Under DPW administration, the Tucker Road relocation design for $150,000. This is the design to conform with the relocation of Tucker Road to the intersection of 6th and Hathaway Road. As you know, MassDOT has an alternative plan that they've moving forward with that doesn't include relocating Tucker Road, but this design would allow us to be shovel ready in the future to tie into that proposed alternative that MassDOT is going to start construction on in 2025.
I want to comment on now and wait till you're finished on this one. I had a question. Is that so? That's the design of the rerouting of Tucker Road.
Tucker Road,
and that will be it will be a matchup to what the work is going to be done
by
Mass Highway.
Correct.
So basically, they're saying then that we'll do this, but it's, we're not going to do the Tucker Road part, but if we want to participate, then our participation will match up to what they're doing.
Correct.
And they basically said they don't want to do the whole project, so this is...
Yeah, there was a discussion of back and forth years ago over the who would be responsible for the land takings.
Correct.
Right.
So MassDOT decided to move in an alternative direction that didn't require the takings.
That makes the most
relocation of
sense.
Tucker Road.
But that's the plan that really makes the most sense if we're gonna do it properly.
We believe, yes,
Right.
relocating.
What's that, to relocate?
Take land, yeah, because the only way you can do it is to take the land. Otherwise,
And this may be a premature
Right.
question, but my impression always also was that the New Bedford Industrial Park project down by the golf course was going to require a lot of work and traffic, and to include hopefully was going to include the Hathaway Road intersection. And does it still preclude us from that? Are we still spending, or are these all independent projects, or is this a mess?
In our discussion with MassDOT about the intersection improvements there, they're aware of the developments going on Hathaway Road, and they think that their alternative design accounts for those improvements.
How about you, Ms.
I
McDonald?
don't agree.
You don't want to hear what I have to say.
What's that?
You don't want to hear what I have to say.
I know what you want to say. That
I
was
don't agree at all.
That was a rhetorical question.
Thank you.
So, I guess my question is, maybe I don't quite understand it all, is why are we spending $150,000 on design, which seems to be saying to them that okay, you're not going to do it, so we're going to start spending our own money to get it done. Is that what's going on here?
That's what's going on, yes. So, we had some discussions, so their plan is to start construction of their alternative design in 2025. We had discussions about going back to the original plan and the town paying for a portion of the relocation. That would have pushed the project out another 4 or 5 years. So the rationale was, let's have them move forward with their alternative. We'll move forward with paying for the design. There's a possibility that their alternative does relieve the traffic down there. They believe so. We're skeptical. But it was quicker for them to move forward with their alternative. It would be some improvement in the area, and then we can certainly move forward on our own path to do the complete design, so that funding becomes available, whether it's through the town or through the state, the project would be shovel-ready.
And what date do they suggest that would take place?
2025.
No, I got the 2025, but.
Oh, the relocation of Tucker Road? I'm not sure what the timeline is on the design, but it would not be before their alternative construction, not before 2025. I don't believe. I'd have to have Tim Barber confirm that.
Okay.
Well, the bottom line is we want the area to be safer. And right now, that area is very problematic. So,
Well, the bottom line is that they're basically saying that they're not interested in the project as it was originally designed, with the land taking and all that, and they're coming up with a different choice they claim is as good, if not maybe even better. And we basically have said that's not possible. And then you have the
don't think
industrial
it
park
is.
coming down, adding a whole element to that. And this sounds like city, town, and state government working at its worst. And I understand what you're trying to do here, and this is going to be, the discussion we're having right now will be no different than we're going to have faced with the town meeting. And we could be faced with rejection of that particular project because it doesn't make any sense, and I think town meeting members will I can't predict it, I don't want to speak for them, but I think
Right.
it's going to be an issue. And how do we feel about that? It's a question I have.
well, I think it's important that DPW is prepared to speak on both of these.
Yeah.
Because people are going to what is the change going to be? What are some options? What are we looking at as a town? And what is the bottom line? This is only $150,000 for the design.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
But excuse
there's
me,
a whole nother piece.
The state is so, they have so much money. And I can't truly understand that they could not buy into our design and it was all about money at the time, about taking land. Well, they have so much money. I mean, the reserves are huge, billions and billions of dollars. We need to find a way to make them look at that proposal that we had and going behind on the side of the Burger Place, whatever their name is, and going across onto Hathaway Road and having the lighting there. And that
I don't think that's the issue at all here, my view. My view
I think
is
it's all
that
about money.
the presentation we got on the New Bedford Industrial Park was part of that whole package, was to be sure that they were interested, as we were gonna say we have to do, have to be forceful, is that this is going to affect that intersection even more than it does now.
Without a doubt.
More traffic and more issues, none of it makes any sense. And maybe an explanation from the DPW will straighten that out, but
But I do think it may be worth having a conversation with someone from the state. The state just announced that they have more federal money for infrastructure.
Yeah, exactly.
They've put more money in the state budget on infrastructure changes. So,
And they're all in with this project on Hathaway Road for the city of New Bedford, for the industrial park.
Big time.
All in.
I think it's
so
worthy of a
makes
conversation
no sense to me
with
at all.
them
Right.
about a relook.
I was gonna keep my mouth shut on this, but I can't.
go right ahead, Sean.
We need to strong-arm Representative Markey, Senator Montigny, to get them to have the state re-look at their decision. This isn't about federal, state, and town governments not working together. This is about engineers digging in their heels saying that they're right. This is what it is. This is the engineers saying, my decision, my idea, my design is the right idea, and we don't need any local yokels telling us what to do. This is what it is. And we're saying, no. We're the ones who live here. We're the ones who drive this every single day. We're the ones who sit in traffic. We're the ones who are blocked by cars. They can't go up Route 6. And you're telling us, from people who don't live in this area, telling us what is best for us. That's wrong. These guys are digging in their heels. They don't want to pay for the for the taking, because it's in excess of $1.5 million, probably $2 million. Okay, because not only that, I mean, the town is willing to give them, the library land, so that they don't have to buy that from us. Okay, that's our pound of flesh in this project. So now it's going to go for that. It's to go for that building and part of the medical. Those two pieces of land. This is what this is. So we need to sit down with Representative Markey, Senator Montigny, and have them strong-arm the state, period. I mean, I think by them telling us that if we change the design and add Tucker Road, it's going to add 4 or 5 years to the project, bull. That's just telling us, you want to go that way, we're going to punish you. It's bull.
I think the only thing I would add to that, Sean, is that it's no coincidence that they decided they were not going to pay for the land taking and then came up with another design that didn't include it. So either way, this whole thing is going to end up to be a project that's not going to work because the original design is the one they came up with, which was everybody was happy with. And once that land taking issue came up, it fell apart. And now you throw in the New Bedford Industrial Park, and I think we have a lot of leverage there because the state's very involved in that, and they want to get that going. And I think when we had the meeting we had a Zoom meeting, and we made it clear that our agreement to the whole project was that we had to include improvements in the intersection.
Have we approved the swap?
For the library?
No. Have we approved the swap?
Rod and Gun Club out there.
The Rod and Gun Club to the city of New Bedford?
I think we did.
No, we didn't, they, which one are you talking about, for the
Where
conservation?
where the city of New Bedford needs to do something.
The conservation restriction?
Yeah.
We gave them property.
DNRT worked out that agreement, so no, we didn't, they own the property, they need someone to hold the preservation restriction is what they needed.
So why
They
can't we
approached the
get?
town, we
have
said,
we- have-
said no, and they
have-
worked out an agreement with DNRT.
Okay, so, but that's a done deal.
Get the mayor
Yes.
involved.
Okay.
I think we should
We-
get the
we-
mayor.
Because if it wasn't, I wasn't gonna vote for it.
We took that
I was gonna
course,
hold the city hostage.
we took that course of
Okay.
action, and then that's
Yeah.
why they went with
I think we
DNRT.
still,
Okay.
I think we still
Yeah,
can.
that's what I thought.
I think we should get the mayor, New Bedford mayor, involved in it. He's got a lot invested in this. in this
I know
industry.
I'm gonna bring it up in town meeting, and I think it's gonna become a giant issue, and it could just say, forget everything, and then we're back to square one.
Oh,
Because
we cannot, the wrong thing to do at this point in time is not to approve the funds for at least the design, so that way we have the design available and we can work with the state with the design. We need the design, okay, because the state isn't going to do it. We need to do it and then force the state to see our way.
If that's what it's explained to us through the DPW, then I think that'd be fine, but people need to understand the sequence of events here, because it certainly is confusing.
It's not in our best interest to accept their plan,
And
by any
it's
means.
also gonna be our design. What makes you think they're gonna accept it at state level anyway? That's not automatic.
And the land taking is
We
is
can,
that-
we can leave a space for the state engineer to put his name on it so that it makes him feel good too.
So we discussed this, the state, their improvements to State Road allow for the incorporation of the relocation of Tucker Road. Because if you may recall, the preliminary design, I think it was 25% design, was done, and that included the relocation. So they're accommodating that same relocation, but we would be finalizing the.
Sean, based on the discussion we've just had, you think it's important for us to approve the $150,000 design?
I think it's prudent to move forward with the town's funding of the design. And as I mentioned earlier, perhaps having a project shovel-ready funds could become available from the state. So essentially, the whole project gets done as originally conceived, but I don't think it would make sense not to fund the design in some capacity and just wait, so.
So I think we ought to make sure that at town meeting, and even for our presentation, final vote next week, that the sequence of events is clear as to what we're trying to do and accomplish, because and as this discussion helped, but the whole thing is, it's the wrong way to do this, but our hands are tied in a big way. And I think down the road, if it meant to get this done and done properly, and the town had to invest a little bit more, and the city of New Bedford helped us out with that big, then it would be worth doing, but we have to find out what that event sequence is, so you feel fairly strongly about the design itself.
In whatever option the town pursues, it just makes sense to have a design complete. And however it's funded, if the town needs to fund it, they should fund it, because having a complete design gives the town more options in the future.
Okay.
We have 3 select board meetings before town meeting, so it would be helpful if we have more information as we go to talk about it.
Could we talk to, have representatives here to talk to us, or someone from even Mass DOT to help us out?
Reach out. I can have Tim Barber here for the next meeting.
And how
he can
about our
probably
state
provide-
legislators?
Yeah.
So maybe
On board.
next week, I could have Tim Barber here to give you an update from the DPW's perspective, and then we can work on having representatives from either MassDOT or.
I think we need to take the attitude, if we don't do this and make it clear, town meeting will turn this down. And you're saying that that's not a good idea, so let's make sure people understand what it is. And then they can vote the way they want, but I think just a vote without this kind of information would be a big mistake. because I think
Wait a
it
minute,
might- Sir,
it's not gonna get turned down. Town meeting is a lot smarter than some people wanna make them believe that they're not, okay? They understand the process. Town meeting the people in this town know what we've been going through because it's been reported and it's here. To say that, it's gonna go down is just stoking the fire to get rid of it. No, that's not the case.
No, with
Okay, the
education,
case,
it won't go
well,
down.
but the case is this. We think that we have to take an additional track that the state is going on, just to make sure that we're ready to go with this, so that the state doesn't decide to delay it another 4 or 5 years to punish us, because this is what we want. Okay?
I'm agreeing with you.
All right, but to say that town meeting is gonna kill it if we don't give them the information's out there, David. It has been out there, and it's been out there for years. Okay?
It's changed a lot, Sean.
It's not, it really hasn't changed.
You don't think the New
It's that
Bedford
Route
is done?
6 is a mess. We want to have it, we want Tucker Road we think that the Tucker Road interchange is going to take care of what it is, because it's going to eliminate a light at Tucker Road, okay, which is part of the problem. And it's going to put a longer queue on State Road. And the state agreed with us, at least to the beginning part of this. The only reason why the state's not agreeing is they don't want to pay for the land taking.
Right.
So that's the issue. Everybody knows. So we want the design, we want our design ready to go, and town meeting's going to understand that. I highly doubt town meeting is, they may make the comments about it, but they'll agree and they'll go with this. I know it.
I actually agree with you, but I think that an explanation at town meeting will help everybody understand what's going on. And then also, presentations by the DPW, by Tim, and hopefully by some state reps here that we can
You
get
won't
some-
have any state reps at town meeting
No, not
describing
at
this
town
thing.
meeting.
And then you won't get DOT people here, okay? A meeting with DOT people has to be done during the day, okay, in Sean McGinnis's office, or on a Zoom call, just to find out what the hell's going on. Because they're not gonna come down here to do it. So that's the only way it's gonna be done, and it has to be, it's gonna be facilitated by either Montigny's office and/or Mackey's office.
And we can recap the meeting in one of our meetings, that's fine,
That's-
whatever it takes.
There you go.
We
Whatever
need
it
it.
takes.
Let's move on.
Get the mayor involved.
Good. Next.
Okay. Next is a Hawthorne Street reconstruction design. This would provide the design for the reconstruction of Hawthorne Street for $150,000. The hope is to get grant funding for the construction of this, but getting the design done.
Is that the intersection here with Slocum, or is it?
No, it's the road.
The road itself,
So,
okay.
yeah, it would be completely redone in
So
the-
from where to where?
Just Slocum to...
from Slocum to New
Brownell.
Bedford.
Okay.
But that will simply just be resurfacing?
No, a total reconstruction. The state requires as complete streets, they call it, which would be driving lanes, bike path lanes,
Curb.
and sidewalks.
Would that affect the intersection of Slocum and Hawthorne?
No, it's just going to be a reconstruction of Hawthorne.
they-
Hawthorne
striping or
with
anything?
sidewalks. No.
But they have, that's a
I think it's
big
curb
project,
cuts
because they
and,
have there's water under that road. There's a brook under there.
It always floods.
It always does. And I'm talking about, let's say, west of the synagogue.
That was
There's-
done already.
there's a-
That was done, the culvert was
But I'm
done.
just saying,
Yeah, but it doesn't work.
to do.
Still floods.
Right, but they have to.
Not as much as it used to.
The culvert was done.
Yeah.
It was redone, and this is now phase 2 of Hawthorne Street.
Up
Phase
from
1 was the culvert, phase 2 is the road. Next.
At what point do they look at the intersection of Hawthorne and Slocum Road?
They don't.
Because to me, that's what's needed. We need
I-
lights there.
The state won't, we will, we do, we go to the state, this is our plan, they look at it, they add their 2 cents in it, and we pay for it.
I had a discussion with the safety officer regarding that intersection, and his first reply was that the busiest times of the day, we have traffic officers
Yep.
there. And also that if he had to list the most critical intersections that are not state-driven, that would not even make the list compared to others. And the main reason was because we have, at the most critical times, it's busiest, we have people there. And he made it clear to me, because I asked that question, that it doesn't rank anywhere near the top of the list when it comes to something new to redesign an intersection that's dangerous.
Okay.
For
I'd
instance,
like
he-
to know the,
He mentioned
the
Allen
dangerous
Street-
intersections.
Allen Street and Slocum Road as being much more difficult than that.
and it has a light.
It does. But Maybe we could ask for a report on the worst intersections in town that require something? Because his exact words were, this wouldn't even make the list.
Because
Well, let's
mean,
look
I'm
at the
just,
list.
but it seems every time I'm coming up
I understand.
Hawthorne
Yep.
and want to
Oh, yeah.
turn
Yep.
left,
Left.
I'm taking my life in my hands.
That's why a lot of people take those side roads to
Right.
get the light at
Correct.
Allen.
So I'd like to see the list of the top 10 to 20 worst intersections in town.
That list is driven by accidents, just to let you
Yeah,
know.
I understand. And there aren't that many accidents on that road, exactly what he said. And then we can make a determination ourselves. Okay, very good.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, now you can continue.
Thanks. Next, under DPW Highway Division, the annual roadway maintenance and improvements for $1 million. They have two 34,400 gross vehicle weight dump trucks with plow replacements for $368,000.
All-wheel.
Are they four-wheel drive?
No, they're not. No, they're not all-wheel.
They're not
Sorry.
four-wheel drive.
No.
One-wheel drive.
They have
Electric.
replacement of 8 overhead garage doors at the DPW facility for $100,000.
Ready?
They have one dump truck with a plow and a sander replacement for $210 approximately $1,000, split 3 ways between surplus revenue, water enterprise, and sewer enterprise. The total for the highway division is
expensive truck.
$1,682,500. The DPW construction division is funding a Bobcat skid steer with high flow hydraulics, for $43,750. From the DPW sewer enterprise fund is one pickup truck replacement for $48,000. Parks and Recreation, the Dartmouth Regional Parks and Trails Playground Replacement. This is the other half, the previous half being funded by CPC for $512,086. Round Hill Beach roadway upgrade, so $535,000. This is to upgrade the road at Round Hill Beach.
Is it a resurface or no? I mean,
We're looking at a few options. At a minimum, it's a resurface.
okay.
Next is Allen Street garage repairs for $300,000. That would help to expand the facility to incorporate a few more vehicles. The total for Parks and Rec is $1,347,086. And last is the DCTV Enterprise Fund. It's video equipment for their DCTV truck for $150,000 coming from their DCTV stabilization fund. Article 7 is the
Many of these funds, are ARPA's involved in these funds as well?
These are not ARPA funded.
None at all?
No. These are our typical capital funded improvements that you can see at the beginning of the article. They come from surplus revenue, the tax levy, and the retained earnings from the enterprise funds.
So the ARPA's are over and above this project?
Yes.
Okay.
But there are some items within this CIP which are recreational playground improvements that we have ARPA funding.
For
Is that
other
something for
playgrounds.
other?
Yes.
Is that something we should be looking at to expend the ARPA funding?
Well, we can certainly look at, for next year, for 2024, there's still $5.1 million in available funds, available ARPA funds for projects.
Okay.
Article 7, appropriation to the stabilization fund for collective bargaining and non-union agreements. This is a stabilization fund for the collective bargaining agreements we have not settled yet. That sum is $442,000. Article 8, appropriation for collective bargaining agreements. This is to implement the FY23 to 25 agreement between the town and the Dartmouth Management Union. The total of the payments is $52,834, with $40,086 coming from the tax levy, from the tax levy to personal services in the general fund, $3,288 from in water enterprise fund from water. I'm really messing this up. In the water enterprise fund from the water enterprise retained earnings. $6,795 in the sewer enterprise fund from the sewer enterprise retained earnings, and $2,665 to Dartmouth Cable Television Fund from the DCTV revenues. All right, Article 9, a creation of a stabilization fund for opioid legal settlement receipts. As I mentioned at a previous meeting, we're starting to receive payments from the state's settlement with the drug pharmaceutical manufacturers for the opioid settlements. In order to expend those funds, we need to put in, without this stabilization fund created for the opioid settlement receipts, they would have to go into the general fund. The state requires that the settlement receipts be used for specific reasons. So until the town decides how they want to use the funds, we've had discussions about them, but we need to put them in the stabilization fund. So we received one check so far, but creating this stabilization fund would allow us to deposit the other checks into this specific account. Article 10 is ancillary to the previous article, which is appropriation to the stabilization fund for opioid legal settlements. This is the one check we have received for $40,211.53. This would transfer it from currently the general fund to the opioid settlement stabilization fund. Article 11, supplement to the FY23 operating budget of the Dartmouth Community Television Enterprise Fund. This would appropriate $15,000 from retained earnings to the operating budget of DCTV, and this would cover the legal expenses for the negotiation of the new Comcast franchise agreement. Mm-hmm. We have counsel on board, and this would be able to fund that. Next, Article 12 is the Dartmouth Wetland Protection Bylaw Amendment. This changes the fee the Conservation Commission charges for expert consultant review of projects from $2,500 to $3,500 for the applicant. And last is Article 13, bylaw required license for donation bins. This new bylaw would require all donation bins in town to be licensed with the Select Board's office. That licensing would allow for contact information for the owners of the bins, but also for the size and construction of the bins, and also for the maintenance of the bins so that there's not trash strewn about, and the number of bins that are allowed on properties. So it does not specify a licensing fee. The board could decide what fee, if any, to associate with this license, but there is a $300 fine that's included in this bylaw that would be allowed to be imposed for people that own the bins that are not with sticking to the bylaw. So we think it's nice that it'll be able to help us track who owns these bins. Some, as you know, are nonprofit agencies, but some are for-profit. This would require just nonprofit agencies, or would allow nonprofit agencies to put their bins in town. And this is on private property as well as public property.
So when looking at,
Would they have a sticker on these bins that we'd issue, and they would
They're
identify?
required to put the
identity-
contact information
Right.
on the
Correct.
bin.
Okay.
Correct. That's part of this bylaw.
Ms. Brooks?
in looking at the bylaw donation in our packet, it talks about a security camera. So how would that work with a multi-bin area?
That is up to the property owner and how they want to make that happen. But we want the donation bins to be within sight of security cameras.
Okay, so I know there's a number of donation bins on school department properties.
Mm-hmm.
So they already have exterior cameras, so one of their cameras could just make sure that it's facing the donation bin.
Correct.
Those that aren't, I'm thinking of another place like St. Mary's Church has some, Friendly Pizza has some. Is it up to St. Mary's Church and Friendly's Pizza to put some sort of camera?
Yes, and the thinking behind that is, we would imagine that the property owners or business owners would want their sites to be as safe as possible. These bins cause people to come, and the public to drop things off. So if things were to happen, they would want that on camera as well.
So is there also going to be a fine if we can track down someone who's, in essence, dumping things that don't belong in that bin? Sometimes you see like cribs or furniture, and it's not what's going into the bin.
We wouldn't, no, we are not responsible for that. That would be the the owner of the bin themselves or the property owner, they would be tasked with making sure that
Sadly, I
the
think
proper.
we can get some cash
I
there.
have a lot of experience with these, and I think most of the bins that are in town now are for-profit bins. Because the not-profits, I had a very successful bin program with the Salvation Army, and people were donating, we put it right out there invisible, and firstly, they couldn't come often enough to pick it up, so therefore the stuff ended up all over the place. Secondly, we had people there every morning at 5 o'clock and 6 a.m. going through it and taking what they want from it. And we finally had to remove it, unfortunate, because it's gathering a lot of stuff. What you end up now with is mostly the for-profit, which we're saying we don't even want in town, the for-profit. This is gonna put the kibosh on the program, pretty much, make it, I don't see how the not-for-profits are gonna, what's the incentive to put security cameras and be there more often, because all it's doing is costing them more money, and they're having a hard time keeping up. So this is, to me, I understand why we're doing it, because it's a mess. It's basically gonna eliminate the process, and there aren't many not-for-profit, not-for-profits who are gonna be able to afford it, either in people or equipment to get it done. And why would a private owner take this risk now when they have all kinds of rules? So it's going to really just about eliminate it. And I would say that if this program is in other towns now, my guess is that's what it ended up to be, which was to eliminate the bins.
I can say that's not the goal.
I understand, and I'd like to see them. I'd like to see them all in there and done right, but there were very few not-for-profits left who could afford to do it.
I am going to ask that you contact the school department, the Bay textiles that they use. I don't know if that's a non-profit or
The one at Cushman
for-profit.
School, as far as I know, is a for-profit.
However, the school department does get checks
Okay.
from the textile company.
But this says no.
Well,
And so that's
then,
my
you know,
point.
I want to find out if it's worthwhile for the school department to have that funding source.
Yep.
Is it something that we need to, cancel? My other thing, though, is about signage on the bins. And I do think the textile bins that are at all the schools don't have enough signage, that the material going into that is going to be repurposed. People are dropping off clothes thinking, these clothes are going to go to the kids for help. The items going into textile bins are going to be shredded and used for other purposes. The bins, for example, at St. Mary's Church, are taken out and go to intact clothing to areas of need. And I think the bins need to have better signage, and that was one of my things that I thought signage guidelines were needed within this bylaw. Either goods will be repurposed to organizations or individuals, or goods will be transformed from their original
Well, I can
purpose.
tell you the signs at Cushman clearly say, textiles, clothing, or whatever only, and it's scattered and littered with cribs and
With cribs
carriages
and
junk.
No one reads.
walkers,
Well, they don't want, they just, okay, if they don't take it, they'll throw it away.
yeah.
And I see what we're trying to
It's
do
an
here,
eyesore.
but it's a tough
But
one.
it's an eyesore everywhere.
It's an eyesore, but also if those things could be donated correctly to Gifts to Give.
Right.
Or,
Yep,
people
yep.
will use
Yeah,
them.
yeah, an alternative place
Gifts
to
to
drop
Give
it off.
spends tens of thousands of dollars throwing stuff away that people leave, even in their place, because it's a problem. And it's part of the cost of doing business. And Savers does it because they're a profit organization, and I guess I'm giving them some mojo here, but
Yeah.
that's why they do it, because it's worth it, because they can sort it out and make a profit from it. And we're eliminating
Well,
that.
sadly, we've become a throwaway society. So,
Very true.
This is a tough one.
Well,
Understanding what you're trying to do.
Well, with any bylaw, it can always be revised in the future.
Yeah.
But, we seem to have more issues with just
Well,
maintenance
Ms.
of the
Brooks,
bins.
can you find out from us for next week about
I
the
will.
school,
happy to do so.
if it's worth it, and how they do it, and et cetera? That would be helpful. Mr. McDonald?
I have no problem with this bylaw. I think it's a wonderful thing.
It is.
It's a long time coming.
Makes
It's
sense.
extremely well written,
Makes sense.
but it eliminates the program.
Anything that gets rid of the crap on the outside of the bins and make the make the bin owners and the property owners responsible for making sure that the property looks good, I'm
But
for
these
it.
constraints are so hard that there won't be any bins, there'll be very few
Oh,
reduced.
oops. Oh, well,
Okay?
okay. Plenty of places to donate clothes. St. Peter's had a whole thing. My mother gave 20-some-odd bags.
Now, maybe this type of giving has seen its course.
No,
No, in these bins.
Maybe we'll see what happens.
people have
Time will
abused
tell.
it. It's been abused. It's time to rein in the abuse. Simple.
No, I'm not saying I'm against it, I'm just saying
No,
that,
I know you're not against it.
okay?
Well, I think I agree with having a bylaw. I just want to make sure that we're not cutting off a funding source that's needed, and I want to make sure that the bins are clearly listed for their purpose. But I do know that people are going to continue. But it does make sense for the property owner to have that camera and go after, if possible, for, I guess it would be called illegal dumping. When
Big
you put
brother,
a-
big sister comes to your house.
Right.
They'll
You
take
can
up
call them.
bags. They'll come right to your house. Call them, they'll come. The source, the giving, the nature of the giving is not dead. Just needs to be cleaned up.
Okay. That was a healthy discussion.
So that is the draft warrant, and, we'll have the final warrant prepared for the next.
Well, where will the Finance Committee be on this for our next week's meeting?
They are voting this week, or making their recommendations Thursday.
So we'll have that.
Yes, they've seen a draft previously last week at their meeting, so they're going to draft their recommendations.
And are we against, if we can, a member or two, or would?
I think there's going to be a member, I asked them about a joint meeting, and they didn't feel that there needed to be a joint meeting at this time to discuss this warrant, but there will be a member or two from the Finance Committee at next week's meeting.
Great. Thank you. Anything else from anybody on the warrant? Great. Next. Clark's Cove notifications discussion.
I missed this.
Yes, so, as you know, there's been a number of, there's been a change to DEP where the city of New Bedford is required to provide combined sewage overflow, CSO, discharge notifications to all abutters to Clark's Cove, including the New Bedford side and Dartmouth. They began doing this over the summer. The town of Dartmouth is responsible for the testing to make sure that the water is safe for swimming. We've been doing that. Our health director, Chris Michaud, has been very vocal about the disparity in the rules between New Bedford and the town of Dartmouth. I included in your packet email Mr. Michaud drafted to DEP, as well, DEP Gerard Martin, who oversees the program, but also the head of our Southeast DEP, Millie Serrano, as well as our representative and Senator, Representative Markey and Senator Montigny. And it just articulates some of the issues that Mr. Michaud has been vocal about in the future, what's going to be done to prepare for next summer. So I asked Mr. Michaud to be here. I'm not sure
Okay.
of his availability, but I thought he was going to be here tonight to kind of give an update on that. But I just, oh, there he is.
Here he is. I wanted to come, well, wait till he takes we're just
You're
on
up.
your piece.
Perfect timing.
I was just explaining to the board that, we've had the combined sewage overflow notifications this summer. You've been pretty vocal about your issues you've had with it between DEP and the city of New Bedford. I included in the packet the email that you drafted to DEP and included our state rep and our state senator, and that, I'll let you articulate beyond that your issues, and while you're bringing this to the forefront and what your expectation is for them to do in the future.
Thank you. For the record, for those that are watching, Christopher Michaud, Director of Public Health of the Town of Dartmouth Health Department. We'd just like to give a little bit of a background what led into all of this. In January 2021, the governor signed a law into effect that required public notification for discharges of sewer to the environment. These were unintentional discharges or discharges by design. So they go by the two acronyms SSOs or CSO. So what we're facing here with these notifications that are chronically closing our beaches are the CSO, Combined Sewer Overflow Notifications from the City of New Bedford. A CSO design for a wastewater treatment plant is not all that uncommon. There are about 18 or so of them, plus or minus in probably plus perhaps in Massachusetts. These are typically in older urban areas where the street drainage and the sanitary sewers come together. And during rain events, at certain points you have to have release to the environment where the commingled waters will sometimes discharge. So in this case here, we have several CSOs in the New Bedford Clark's Cove area that discharge to Clark's Cove. In speaking with former staff, having been with the department for a number of years, I was unaware of CSOs. We always heard of the one in front of the old Merritt gas station near Burger King, but more importantly, we were never notified of their discharge or of a discharge. And that's what the legislature and the governor attempted to accomplish with this new law. Following the passage of the law, it required Mass DEP to create regulations within 500 and something days. Mass DEP, being charged by the legislature, came up with 314 CMR 1600. Those regulations required permittees, those municipalities that hold, or in some cases maybe a private entity that hold a discharge permit, to notify in the event that they discharge. So on July 6th of this year, that went into effect by and large. There is still some aspects of 314-1600 that are yet to go into effect with final plans. So on July 6th, it went into effect, and on July 7th, we received our first notification of a discharge to Clark's Cove.
One day.
Now, what's interesting about these regulations is that they kind of commingle with another set of regulations which pertain to our bathing beaches. Mass Department of Public Health has regulations that govern the operation of public and semi-public bathing beaches. In particular, there is a section in there that has particular sanitary requirements where we have to test our beaches at a prescribed time frame, and they must meet certain criteria to remain open. But more importantly, there is another section in those bathing beach regulations that say, and I'm summarizing, if there is information that believes there is a pollutant, whether it be chemical or biological, then no swimming shall be permitted. So shortly after the July 7th notification, I had a conference call with Mass Department of Public Health to discuss these new regulations. And I asked them, I said, listen, I'm receiving a notification of a CSO discharge in close proximity and in a limited embayment. And my interpretation of this regulation is that the beaches need to close until such time that we have quantitative data that reflects that the beaches can be open. Bailey Logan and another individual who I have written down both agreed to that. And I said the only way in which we can is to test. So New Bedford's plan allows, that was approved by Mass DEP, their preliminary plan allows them to notify us up to 24 hours after the discharge. That is the most dangerous time frame after a discharge. In the instance of the very first discharge, we got a report from them almost a day later. So we had bathing going on well into the day without any notification. So clearly, the intent of the statute is not being met if people are swimming in waters less than 1 day after the discharge, and then we're being notified and then have to respond a day later. What we're attempting to do at the health department is to provide some response-based testing in Clark's Cove to try to pattern what the bathing beach water quality will be 24 hours after an incident. However, that's plagued by a number of issues. That's plagued by the erratic notification, as well as the weather pattern, more importantly. We received the notification this morning, and yet we're due again for rain tomorrow. So for us to have tested today would have been on the back of the discharge, and then to wait till tomorrow, well, it's going to rain tomorrow, so now we have to wait till Wednesday. So we're fortunate insofar as, I'll be the first person to say it, that the drought this year has limited the brunt of these regulations on the operation of our public and semi-public beaches. However, if this was last year, the consequences would have been much more severe. I have reached out to Mass DEP about some concerns that I have about New Bedford's application, because in Mass DEP's own FAQ, they note that in the preliminary application, that the applicant is to provide the date for which they will install the signs. And New Bedford said they haven't done it yet. So I don't fault New Bedford. I fault Mass DEP for approving an application that wasn't consistent with their own FAQ. Now, I reached out and I gave a courtesy call to Mass DEP in around the 2nd or 3rd week of August, and they said they would get back to me. The deputy regional director. Letting about 2 weeks go by, I reached out again by email, and there was no response. And again, the email that you're now in possession of from last week was my 3rd attempt and 2nd email, and yet no response. I know that our beachgoers in town are very frustrated by this. I am equally as frustrated. I'm doing what I can to talk to Mass DEP and DPH, and I'm not getting much, if anything. But early in July, I did a records request, and what I find very interesting was one of their responses that they sent to me, in which they wrote, as we struggle to interpret the new regulation as we have done on every CSO and SSO plan, and we are really just ideas in the interpretation. To me, that means they don't know what they're doing.
Are you surprised?
Yeah.
It's a very simple set of regulations. It requires a plan and protection of the public in the best interest of the public. So there is another time frame coming up in which the final plans will be presented by the permittees to the department, Mass DEP, in and around the beginning of the year. And I believe, as I read the regulations, that I don't believe are so difficult as the department believes, we may have a chance to opine our position on it. And, you know, coming from one person like myself, I can be a nuisance like the mosquito in the ear of a person that, you know, you just kind of swat off or just ignore. But I think in this case here, with the impact on our Clark's Cove beaches, which 2 are public and we have 3 semi-public, we need a swarm of hornets on Mass DEP to protect our interest. And that's only going to come from our people and others to let it be known to DEP that, you know, we expect more from them. Because it's going to take some time for us to try to figure this out with these CSO now that we are in possession of these notifications that they never provided us with in the past. I just would like to kind of close by saying, as I stood over that pipe when it's discharged during a rain event, and it is nothing to be taken lightly. I wish they had notified us of that in the past. I wouldn't wish anyone or anything to swim in those waters after that pipe is discharged. I've seen that with a coworker. The smell, what I saw, was horrific. And,
Yeah.
you know, the governor and the legislature did the right thing by passing this statute, but we need DEP to step up to the plate on these regulations.
Mrs. Brooks?
First, I want to commend Chris in the letter, the strongly worded letter. I thought you were right to the point. I think at this point, a co-authored letter to Mass DEP should come from the Select Board, Town Administrator, yourself, even including Tim Lancaster as Parks and Recreation, because this falls on him and his lifeguards to keep people out of the water when there's a problem. But also they need to provide us with guidance on how do we test, and what do we test with, and what are we looking for. I cannot believe that this is the first year that this has gone in. So what have people been swimming in prior to this? Especially, as you said, last year was a very rainy summer. So what were people swimming in those Clark's Cove beaches? It also was very upsetting because it's not just our beaches, but the New Bedford side of Clark's Cove has, a long track of beach, which is, has lots of people bathing. I think this is a real concern, and I think I applaud your strongly worded letter, but I think we need to co-author a letter so it's not just Chris's voice, but it's in conjunction with ours and others.
Yeah, I would just like to also note that this is not only limited to the bathing beach season, this is year-round. So if we end up with a horrific winter where we have ice out to Nantucket, which has occurred, a few times over the last 20 years, we still have to be posting these notifications. And it's not only at our beaches, but it's at all public points of access. So fortunately, there is a lot of private property along Clark's Cove. However, we do have the Rogers Street boat ramp. So, I just want to kind of point to that because that also, when I speak to this, it's not only about Dartmouth, but about those other communities. And should we have an SSO overflow, because we do maintain a system that can be prone to failure, unintentional failure, which would be an SSO overflow. So we would be bound by notifying at boat ramps like we would at the Rogers Street boat ramp.
Anybody else? I got a couple of questions.
No. I think the letter should go out. There's no
Okay,
question about
a couple of questions. One, maybe naive, but the resolution and correction of the problem is a giant problem and requires major funding and projects, and involves obviously the city of New Bedford more so than it does even the town of Dartmouth. So that correcting the problem is a reach. It's expensive. Correct me if I'm wrong. And they don't seem to have a lot of interest in the process of correcting the problem.
Well, it's something that plagues, these antiquated sewer systems, are common in Massachusetts. There are about 18 of them.
Yep.
And Fall River, early in the 21st century, underwent a monumental upgrade to their system in which they bored a hole under the city. I forget how long and how wide, but it was something that you'd only hear about, occurring like in the English Tunnel. It was over a mile long, and the diameter of it was enormous. That was their way of trying to address most of their CSO discharges. They are still listed as a CSO discharger. I don't know how true that is. I did find it on a website as I was trying to find out, how common is this in Massachusetts or in our area. But yes, correcting these CSOs is a monumental task, and
well, our focus
it's
in the short
not something
and
that's
medium
easily
term,
achieved.
Our focus in the short and medium term has to be about notification to the people involved, and is there much of it? I mean, that's what we're talking about here. That's testing.
Receiving timely notifications in the early phases of this, so we can so that we can begin to predict and create a model for when we believe. A few weeks ago, one of the only times in which we did not receive a notification was on the weekend, and I spent every hour going to my phone looking to see if we got a notification.
And it was raining.
The city got a 24-hour waiver, but I don't see anywhere in the regs where we get a waiver. And I don't want to be answering to a bunch of people with swimmer's ear or GI infection from swimming in waters that were impacted by a CSO. And, I was busy that day and I didn't see the notice for 6 hours. It's imperative that we create some sort of model by which to predict, and it might be something where we have to be proactive and just say, hey, we're due to get a half inch of rain today. We're going to make this prediction, and we may lift it.
Well, a couple of questions, because I've had long discussions with this in regard with the harbor management plan as well, and is there a way, and I talked to Sean about it, of notifying people through these notices and reaching out to people, say if you wanted to get the notice directly, then maybe we can establish some kind of an email process where if you're a resident of the town or you're affected by the water, then we can reach out, and at least they can know directly and get a note. Because right now, I believe we're notifying the beach associations or the public Jones Beach, but Is there a way that we can, I know,
So the city does maintain a website, and that's part of these 314 CRR 1600 regulations, is that they have a website by which people can subscribe to. And part of some of the permanent postings of the signs that may, depending upon how we come together whenever they decide to meet with the town, these signs can have links to their website by which people can then subscribe to these notifications. However, like we got a notification this morning, I then went, because the notification was cut off on the time, the hour of the day in which the discharge occurred, so we tried to look on their website and it hadn't updated yet.
well, in that conversation with Harbor Master, the notification says no swimming, no fishing, and no boating. And if I'm coming in from Cuttyhunk and
I do have some concerns about that. These regulations, and I'm not trying to undermine them, they're very well intentioned. Contact with wastewater influenced marine waters is not something to take lightly. However, I don't believe that the town nor DEP can ban navigation on marine waters. So, what we're trying to do is provide for multifaceted communications, so that little pictogram that shows no swimming, no boating, no fishing, essentially what they're trying to get out to is those languages or people that may have reading barriers to know that there's something, in that short.
But there's no, getting a notice that says no boating, which is unenforceable, pretty much, and we're going to get it on a regular basis, then people start paying attention to the whole notice period. So
Absolutely.
This is a horrible situation.
Yes.
And I think that we need to do the best we can to get people to notice, because we can't do anything about the problem in the short term. Get the notice to people who have applied. And my understanding, the notice goes all the way out past Anthony Beach in that area, so it's a wide swath of, I say nothing in New Bedford as well. And I think we need to work on how we notify people and what is the notice itself. And is boating required to be on there? And if it is,
Yeah, the Mass DEP, I struggled with that in the beginning, because I was just saying, the town doesn't have the ability to shut down navigation on marine waters. That's the Coast Guard.
Right.
But when you go through all the DEP sites and their FAQs and their pictograms that they say that they're going to provide, that's what it certainly strongly implies.
I understand the probably it's important not to have boating because it's churning up, but how do you enforce it and letting people know? And I think we need to have a consensus on how to do that, because we're going to end up with people not paying attention to any of the notices, because it's going to come out every time it rains.
Yeah, and there's a component to these regs that actually call for reverse 911 if it's available.
Yeah.
I don't have access directly to reverse 911, so it is my opinion that I don't have that available. I would hate to use reverse 911 had I had direct access to that and I was the controller of that, because the last thing we want is people being dull to reverse 911 calls.
Right.
And the way this is going, and now that we're entering the wet season, reverse 911 is going to come up as potential spam. And not too long. Yeah. And when we really need to, like the town of Mansfield's having an emergency at this time, the people ignore it.
Right. And that's the danger we're facing right now.
Absolutely.
I also think we should include the waterways in terms of being represented by this letter, the Waterways Department, because that does involve the harbor master as well, in terms of all the people we can to make known to the DEP that the town in full force is trying to make a point. What a mess.
I have one more question.
Right ahead.
Knowing that this is a result of sewer discharge, are there other areas in Dartmouth, so in the Apponeganset area, do we have potential sewer discharge?
That's a great question. So we do not have any CSOs in Dartmouth. Our plant functions by a single discharge out into Buzzards Bay. I think it's about 1.5 miles off of Salters Point. It doesn't mean that we won't have a failure, like a private pump station failure, maybe a grease blockage at a line that plugs the line, causes the manhole to lift in the street or in the woods and over top. I've certainly seen that, 3, 4, 5 times in my time with the town.
And that would be impacted through a horrific rain, something along that line?
It can be in horrific rains. I know of one discharge event where, you get these monumental rain events, 8 inches in, just a short period of time. And all of a sudden the inflow and infiltration coming in from unintended sources into our system may be a reason for that. But more often it's a result of some sort of failure.
But that's a singular event that you can fix, and then but this is going to come every time it rains.
Right. The number of times that I can recall that happening is about the number, in 26 years, is about the number of times I can equate to this happening since the onset of these regulations with the New Bedford CSO.
Yep.
Okay. My other question is, after reading this and really thinking about what the potential of disgusting, I went on the website to try to figure out who's responsible for monitoring our other waterways and what's happening. And I went on the Buzzards Bay Coalition website, which was very, very interesting. Now, they're looking at other things, but they have 5-year averages, and I apologize to everyone for me going on about this, but I do think folks in town should look at the Bay Health and look at our areas, because we do have some areas in town which do not have great health, and I don't know how we correct those. And I'm not saying that this is a Chris Michaud Board of Health issue, but I think as residents of Dartmouth, we need to think about our environment and how we can contribute to its health or better health. And so I would like us.
The very first project the Harbor Management Implementation Committee put together was a coalition with the Buzzards Bay Coalition to test the waters coming from down the Buttonwood Brook into the north part of the harbor, and that was that in itself is providing major issues in the health and safety of the water in the harbor. And clean water was the #1 priority of that committee.
And they're working with.
Buzzards
They
Bay
are?
Coalition.
Okay.
We're testing. We have buoys all over the harbor at this point. Yes, sir.
So yeah, just in response to that, that's a great point. I am aware of Buzzards Bay Coalition's concerns about the health of Buzzards Bay and all the estuaries attached to it. This certainly does fit into that as one piece of a monumental piece puzzle. So, a few weeks ago or months ago, we had a conversation on the agenda about some proposals that DEP, advised us to. Certainly, we'll be talking about those in the near future before the end of the calendar year. But I do believe that, in addressing the health of the bay, it's going to be a multifaceted approach, whether it's sanitary with the bacteria or nutrients with nitrogen. It all fits into this nice pie chart. And to look at it from just one piece of that pie chart is a failed approach. The only way that that's going to be addressed is through looking at the entirety of the contribution, where there's controllable sources everywhere, and addressing all of it. And we'll be talking about that, I'm sure, as these other changes from DEP are becoming more tangible.
Well, it's one of those things, the more you know, the more you feel you need to know, and once you know something, you can't unknow it. So I do think that at some time in the near future, I'd like the Select Board to spend some time looking at this Buzzards Bay information, and if that means that we need to meet with the Waterways Committee, because in Dartmouth, we do have some poor numbers, which are over a 5-year. In fact, the Upon-a-Gansett Bay has been monitored since 1992, and we only, from 1992 to 2020, we only have one fair reading. The rest are all poor readings.
That's why this study was done there first.
So, but I think we need to look at what's happening there. Why are we high in nitrogen, dissolved oxygen, algae pigments, and the water clarity? What are we doing?
There's buoys all along Buttonwood Brook in the north of the harbor and the south part.
Right, but I'm talking about just that the other were not bad. It was just this, which I thought was something to look at, because when I looked at the numbers for the inner Clark's Cove and outer Clark's Cove, for over 5 years, their numbers were better than this. And here we are discussing issues in Clark's Cove.
You know, and I just, you know, there's so many what ifs in all of this without doing a comprehensive analysis, but, you know, we do know that, you know, sewering can be and can't be the answer. Because with the Pontigansett, we've done a tremendous amount of sewering in that watershed, and yet we haven't seen, you know, vast improvements like we have with Clark's Cove. But what we do know about Clark's Cove, at least on our side, you know, the Solimar, the Prospect Street pipe, that may as well been a CSO.
With the source, yeah.
Because that was picking up the drainage from a bunch of failed septic systems in the Solimar area. And that was sewered over
Clark's
25
Cove has
years ago.
flushed itself out over the last 25 years because we allowed it to, because we stopped the effluents coming in from the Bedford Harbor, and it's worked. But this is another issue of the same sort of thing. But all I know is I like the idea that we have Mr. Michaud on our side watching the way things are
Oh,
going.
absolutely.
Anybody have any comments or questions? Thank you. It's
Thank you.
not a happy story, that's for sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, moving right along.
Can we talk about the letter, the co-authored letter? Because I think that's necessary. And I don't know if that means we need a motion or,
I think that...
Just get it
Want to
done.
make a motion, then we can work on drafting the letter and present it to the board in the
Put it
future.
together, yeah.
Get it done.
With
I'd like to make a
all the
motion
Go ahead.
that we co-author a letter with the Select Board Town Administrator. Waterways, I think, was
Waterways.
also mentioned.
Tim Lancaster.
Tim Lancaster for Parks and Rec,
Michaud.
Chris Michaud,
Board of Health.
DPW, Board of Health, I mean,
Yeah.
the whole scope, and, you know, send it to the Mass DEP, CCing both Chris Markey.
What is the
And
purpose of the
Montigny.
letter, the focus of the letter, priority?
The focus of the letter is to refocus on Chris Michaud's previous letter.
Original letters.
Original letter, to look at the timeliness of notification and to have a better sense of when testing and retesting occurs.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Any further discussion or comments before we go? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None?
Thank you, Mr. Gracie.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mrs. Brooks. Comcast ascertainment hearing notification.
Yes.
Is that a word?
Peter Chase, yes.
Right. As you know, the cable contract with the town of Dartmouth is up for renegotiations. It officially expires September of 2023. So federal and state law requires that the select board holds an ascertainment hearing, which the ascertainment hearing is basically residents, general public, stakeholders, yourselves can provide feedback on what you'd like to see in a new cable contract, what type of funding you want to have for support of local programming like DCTV. So right now we have that hearing scheduled for October 3rd at 6:30 at a select board meeting here in room 304. So we're just letting everyone know in the general public that
Great.
come on in that night and air your grievances.
Will it be on your website?
We'll post it on our website. We'll post it on our message board. It's going to be in the newspaper.
Great.
I believe it was scheduled to be posted this Wednesday and next Wednesday.
So it tells people they can come in and make comments.
Correct.
Put a little
Yep.
direction there as to what this is for.
It's again, it's all legalese. We have to follow the legal format of the posting, so it's not as clear cut as that, but it kind of says
Can we do a
that.
little opening paragraph preamble and put it in English? Is that possible?
I don't think in the posting we can't, but we can definitely do something on TV and on Facebook.
Okay.
that We'll have it.
Great.
And that's at 6 PM?
6:30.
It's at the select board.
It's
meeting.
Oh, it's at the
select board
select board
Yeah,
meeting.
so you'll be there.
We're inviting you to the select board meeting.
Well, thank you.
I have one question.
Mr. McDonald?
Do we have enough time for public comment? I have a feeling this
You-
is
you
not,
run the
we
meeting.
won't have enough time.
I mean, there
We'll be
is
here
supposed
till
to be a
midnight, if
representative
not
from,
the next day.
there is a representative that's supposed to be coming from Comcast, so most of the time they do attend, but every once in a while something comes up, they just get a copy of the video after the fact, but I know the last two times we did a cable contract and we had an ascertainment here, and they actually sent a stenographer to take minutes of the meeting themselves.
October 3rd?
October 3rd.
Is it possible
yes.
to start our meeting at 6, get some things
Well,
out of the
I
way?
think Sean's
Have them
first
come on at
comment is, are we
6:30?
giving enough time for the public to respond?
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna have enough time. I can tell you right now, the most comments we're gonna get is cost.
Right.
And that's so kind of really out of our jurisdiction.
Well, we have three meetings in October.
Right? I'm just saying, I'm
Yeah.
just letting you know.
I mean, there are very limited topics that can be discussed in the contract, and I'm sure our lawyer will go over that beforehand, but I think, Sean's correct that
Cost is not
and-
part of our
Right.
criteria with the contract. It's services to the town, what they have to provide, what they can provide, what they should provide. Unfortunately, cost is not one of them.
Maybe we should publish the fact that we just financed a study to see if we can throw them out.
No.
Well, they'll
No,
still
it's
be part
no,
of
it's
it.
not.
They'll still be part of
it. David, please, it's not. We're looking to establish a municipal broadband
Right.
infrastructure for the
Foremont's a
town,
little heavy-handed.
so that with broadband, the internet, there could be an alternative and hopefully a less expensive alternative for the residents in town to the current provider.
Right.
My problem is this, is that these contracts are basically giving each of the cable companies a monopoly within the community. But we all know that we've asked Verizon whether or not they're interested in coming to the area, and Verizon says no. They don't want to spend the money for the infrastructure, which they need to vastly improve and upgrade in this area. They don't want to do it. So the only other way to do it is through Skylink or some type of satellite internet system. That's the only way to do it. The Municipal Broadband Committee, hopefully, after approving a municipal utility and getting the infrastructure, getting the costs, may be able to provide our citizenry with a alternative.
My point is making it well-known that we're looking for that alternative is something not every community
Right?
does.
We're not looking to throw
No,
Comcast
that
out.
was,
We're looking
that's
for
heavy.
a reasonable alternative.
Still need part of their service.
Right.
But can part of their service be to build that infrastructure? Can part of their service be to
Comcast
build that
already has-
infrastructure? To add more?
They won't.
They won't.
They will not, they will not, I can tell you this right now, they will not shell out the money for Dartmouth to have its own broadband service.
Giant
No,
company.
no, but if they could provide more internet connectivity, because we have lots of spots that have
Most of the
not
time,
great service.
It'll end up being 5G Wi-Fi. That'll be the route to go for a lot of these areas, especially in the rural areas of
Right.
town. Because you have to have X number of potential customers per mile. That's the way they look at it, that's the way they've always looked at it. So.
Because
I mean, it's
during
like
the
same-
shutdown,
it's-
this is
it's like the
where
same- it's like
the
same thing with school
inequities-
buses. It's like
the
the same thing with
inequities.
school buses.
Yeah.
Okay, school bus routes are designed by potential customers. People say, well, there's only 4 kids in the bus. Well, yeah, but there could be 40 in there.
Right.
If everybody chose to take the bus, but they're not chosen to take the bus. So that's the whole deal. So that's.
But I know that the COVID did show the inequities of infrastructure throughout the Commonwealth. And I would hope that,
No doubt about it.
yeah.
But then again, nobody planned on having 3/4 of the population on Zoom meetings.
Right, right,
And,
no.
and Google chats and
But now we know it's possible.
Skype and all that.
In the
so-
last cable contract, I believe it was the last one, if not, it was the one before that, we required Comcast to cable all of Dartmouth, because there was some areas like Division Road and the roads that kind of we shared with other communities that Dartmouth Comcast cable didn't go down the street. So like Westport, I forget who they're at now, I'm not sure if they're Spectrum or what.
Any idea
At
what-
the time, whatever they were offering a far, less service.
Any idea where they are over in Fairhaven at this point in time? Are they?
They've been approved. My understanding is town meeting has approved the formation of a municipal utility.
Right.
It has to go before the state to get approval. So it's going to go to state DPU, then maybe, I think, the legislature also. And then once they get the approval for the utility, then the utility can start going out and looking at infrastructure costs and whatnot, so.
Yeah, Fairhaven had a study done similar to what we want to do, and they have some numbers on how much it would be to build out their, they are a lot smaller of a landmass. But then also they already own some of their own fiber out on the streets, so they're gonna kind of reuse some of that. Dartmouth, we don't own any fiber on the poles. Everything, all the fiber that we have comes through Comcast. So Comcast has an agreement with us to provide.
My point is that the potential of added competition is always a good thing. And, okay, so.
Anything to provide our citizenry with a better price.
Do we have so you're concerned that October 3rd doesn't give us enough time to get feedback and we should postpone it?
I think he just thinks it's going to be a very long meeting that night.
Yes.
No, so the length of the meeting as opposed to the time?
I just think the comment period, there's going to be enough people that are going to be PO'd about Comcast and the cost of Comcast, but it has to be understood that we cannot comment on the cost because it has to be the way the product is delivered and incorporated into the town. That is the bailiwick of the discussion.
So you're saying we should start the meeting earlier, but have it on the 3rd, or we should give more time to go to the 17th?
I suggested starting the meeting earlier just so that we can get some of our work out of the way, have their hearing, and finish up.
Let's not have an executive session. Let's start our meeting at 5.
Yeah.
And then we can go through 6:30 can be the Comcast. And that'll be the last thing on the meeting.
On our list.
Okay? And then, but there has to be, Peter, I know you'll be here, and I would hope the Municipal Broadband Committee will also either be watching or they'll be here.
I believe some of them are going to.
But it's got to be clearly stated as to what this is for and why, and it can't be just cost, because I'll be honest with you, mostly everybody's going to come in here and complain about the cost.
Well, what I'm hearing from Peter is that this notice is very technical and probably hard to understand. What I'm saying is we need to put some kind of preamble in there, understand what this meeting's for, what you can talk about and what you can't. And I think give people a break to let them understand what we're trying to do here and get it out to as many people as we can.
These type of discussions led to public access television. That's what this is for. And the funding of that public access television. And how it is done, and how that when you see your bill, you have the myriad of all fees, but you also have that public access fee. That goes to that.
Right.
And that's what this is for. And that is the formation, and that is the genesis and the results of these types of meetings. Not on cost.
Are we in agreement that the notice should be as clear as possible, along with the legal aspect of as well? And
same thing we do with the DPW water notices. Technical, reality.
Well, we've sent out the notice, the legal ad. It's pretty specific about how we're supposed to draft the ad, so that's been issued. But we can certainly put additional information on our website, social media, our engagement portal.
The idea in plain English is what this meeting's for.
Yep.
And what the
And then also the night of the meeting, I think our lawyer has already said that he'll provide the chairperson with kind of a breakdown or
this is all about people being informed who want to come to the meeting, and let them know what this is for.
You're still gonna. I mean, doing this for a few times now, you're still gonna get the people that are gonna come in, and it's fine. You give them the 2-3 minutes to come up here and say they don't, they're not happy with the cost. And
I think we also should, in any of the notices that we put, is that we set up a separate email for Comcast comments at town.dartmouth.ma.us, and that comments regarding the contract can go directly to there. That way people don't have to get out of their homes that they can provide it through the email, through that, and it'll be made part of the record.
And we can read it.
Yeah.
Whatever we can do, that
Yes.
makes it easier.
And they can email me and I can forward them to you.
But let's just
also.
set up a separate,
I think it's a-
we have the ability to set up
Yeah.
thousands of, I mean, we do it for anybody who's elected.
Yeah.
So they can set up a
And there's
Comcast one
yeah,
for.
There's also a general comment.
Right.
Email on the town website that you can click on, and that'll come into.
Well, I think what you're hearing from all of us is that we gotta go out of our way to be clear as to what the meeting's for and how they can access, which is either through that email
Right.
or come to the meeting.
Yep.
But I think that gives an opportunity for people who want to say the cost is exorbitant.
Yeah. But I also think it's an opportune time to talk about what the project we're working on, because it all works together. People want to know what we're doing.
Well, we're still in the infancy.
That's okay.
But it's important to know that the public access fee does go to DCTV. And so what we don't want is everyone leaving to do something else and reducing that public access fee.
Right.
Because the cost of
That public
operation.
access fee is directly generated from cable fees.
Cable
Cable
Not
fees,
internet
right.
fees.
Cable fees
Right,
only.
cable fees.
Fees only.
We're going to have to move on. Are we all set here?
We are.
Thank you very much. Good discussion. Thank you, Peter.
It's still the 3rd, right?
We'll stay in the 3rd, right?
Okay.
We may start early, no executive session, and we'll be fired up for 6:30 for this one. Okay, next would be the SRTA representative and designee appointment.
Yes, this is an annual appointment to the Southeast Regional Transit Authority Advisory
boy.
Board. The Select Board needs to identify a representative and a designee. Last year, the board designated myself as the representative and Cody Haddad as the designee. The board would like to
And now
do the
you want to
same.
reverse it, right? You want to make Cody the designee.
Is that it? Is
And
that
you're
it,
the
Cody?
alternative,
He was
correct?
the, yeah.
You all in, Cody?
Okay. Make a motion that we appoint Cody Haddad as the designee, as the representative for the Select Board, and to appoint Sean McGinnis as the designee.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Well,
Yes.
yes. So
Yes, okay.
previously, Cody was the designee attends the meetings.
Oh, okay.
I'm the representative.
All right, so you want to, then we keep it
So
the
you
same.
want to leave it?
All right.
I think we should keep it the same. I'm the representative. He's the
All right.
designee.
Okay.
I'll make
All
a-
right, so
all right,
make
so I'll make a
another-
motion that we appoint Sean McGinnis and Cody Haddad to the SRTA Advisory Board and let them fight it out as to who wants to go.
All right.
Even
No,
better.
but you have to have it.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Keep the same.
I need a second.
Second.
Any questions or comments? You talked out on that one, Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Okay, good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? Congratulations.
Great, you're appointed.
Okay, moving right along. Town Administrator update.
Yes, in keeping with the new practice of giving an update to the board. The latest is, as you know, we had the primary last week. Just some numbers that I thought the board might be interested in. The total voter turnout was 5,967, which was 26% of voters.
Wow.
As you know, there are a number of ways to vote now. There's absentee ballots, there's early voting by mail, there's early voting in person. So absentee ballots, there were 98 distributed and 63 returned. Early voting by mail, there were 3,350 distributed, but 1,767 returned. And early voting in person was 208.
So half the people who
Pretty
applied
good.
for early voting
Yes.
voted?
Yes.
Wow, half? Is that,
I thought it would be higher. You asked
why would they
for it.
apply and not?
Early
vote?
voting by mail? Oh, well, sometimes you get it and they decide to come in and vote. They just
Okay.
like the option.
So is that an alarming number, that half are?
No, it's a good turnout. I think you're starting to see more people voting by mail.
Yep.
And, a lot are requesting it, and, there's still a lot that are turning in their ballots. And you can see early voting in person, there were only 208, and they're required to have early voting for 4 days, I think. So they don't really get a big turnout for early voting, but it's a lot of work and effort for the clerk's office to set up an area for the early voting. Some financial items. Gary Carrero had mentioned that our update for 2019 has been completed. 2020 is drafted and should be completed this week, and they hope to start on 2021. Our free cash was certified this year. It's $5,513,000. It's above what last year's free cash certification, so that's great, which was $5,368,000.
He left.
Some other good news, our first quarter estimated receipts have come in, and they are in line with last year, actually slightly above, but pretty much equal. We've talked about the fall town meeting preparation, and I've mentioned we are continuing with our collective bargaining. We have one agreement in place, a tentative agreement potentially with another union, and we're working on 2 more. So, some interesting grant awards. The town was awarded 2 community compact best practice grants, $50,000 each, for a total of $100,000 for human resources best practices. The first grant is to review human resources operations overall in town, to provide the best efficient services of our human resources department. So they're going to have a consultant help us with that. And the second is to help us rewrite all of our job descriptions in town. Many of them are very old and need to be updated, but it's not just a matter of writing job descriptions, it's making sure they're classified properly according to our reclass and compensation plan and that grading schedule that goes along with that. So
That include the select board job description?
yes,
Okay.
yes, very important.
Button that thing right up.
And the other grant was, as you all know, we received a $2 million appropriation from the Baker-Polito administration for MassDOT to take over the design of the Paden Bridge. So that's very exciting. We continue to look at Memorial Stadium construction options in lieu of the high cost estimate that came in, or proposals that came in to complete the construction. We're looking at a village parking assessment and Dias Landing parking. Obviously, we're looking at large improvements, but we're also doing an analysis and getting some proposals for metered parking. Particularly in the village, we have an issue with turnover of the parking spaces in the village during the summer in particular. A metered parking application, not meters at each parking space, but maybe one pay kiosk, but also the app that allows people to pay online. So we're evaluating some options for that and some
I don't
proposals
like the idea.
to present to the select board in the future. One of the issues that we've heard as part of the village parking committee, but also from other people in the village, is that a lot of the employees will park there for the day, taking up spaces. We want, people to enjoy the area, and if, parking is an issue, so anything we can do to keep the turnaround going, I think would be beneficial. So not so much for the revenues, but really just to keep the
What we really need is off-street parking.
Yes.
Well, and I
That's
think
what
we
we
need to
really-
look at, there's an area of off-street parking.
Well, we know where we could get it, but it's
Right.
it's a stumbling
That's not-
stumbling block every
It's a
time we
huge
bring it
issue.
up. It's an empty piece of broken-down building that's a fire trap, and it belongs to the fire department.
Oh, I'm not talking about that.
Well, I am.
I'm talking about another area that has multiple parking spots, that maybe 2 or 3 are used by a business,
Oh, I know,
and,
but that's private property.
It's private property.
but, being a good neighbor would be helpful.
It's all about that, but
Anyway,
I still think that option, and we have a design to take that property down and make it a proper place to park automobiles, and do it neatly and cleanly, and not affect the residents.
okay, but we also have to work with our
District 1 Fire Department.
District 1, and we have to work with our Parks and Rec, which also use the building.
Well,
No,
Not
not
anymore.
anymore, no.
What about,
No,
I
not
think
at
the
all.
timing with the District 1 looking at the design and renovation of the existing would be a perfect time to sit down and speak with them if and when they're going to do it. I guess they're working on it, and I'm told they have designs and they're moving along with it. I think that's the time to step in and work with them to make something happen. And do we draft a letter to District 1 with the tone of, now that you're working on the design,
Good luck.
and put it on the record, and we'd like to meet with you, have an official meeting, maybe invite them to a meeting? I know District 1, our fire department's independent, and that's the way it's designed, but in this case, this is a direct relation of town government and Fire District 1. Why not put it in writing?
I will do that.
Is that okay with everybody?
absolutely.
Okay.
Hold on one second. We've signed a contract with our website provider, Civic Plus, to update the town's website, so we'll be starting that within the next month or so. First looking at just kind of some structure, new usability, and then working on updating the content, migrating content that's useful, eliminating content from the existing site that's not useful. So that'll take probably 6 months to implement completely. We're also evaluating an online recreation programming application that would allow residents to apply, pay, and monitor their scheduling recreation applications and activities. I think this will alleviate a lot of the manpower in the recreation department and allow them to focus on other things like the programming.
Is it, along those lines, is it possible to work with DPW to have online permitting? I know it was a bit of a fiasco for that July 1st.
Yeah, we actually just talked about that this morning, yes.
Okay,
So the
because I think it was the
stickers,
transfer station
yes.
stickers.
So we're going to work on that for this coming fiscal year.
Thank you.
Under procurement, the McBratney property lease RFP responses were due Friday. We received one where we'll start going through the response to see that it meets the criteria of the RFP, and if so, we'll present something to the select board in the near future. Working on the disposition of the old police station, we did a bid for the tank removal, the underground fuel storage tank. That bid opening was last Thursday. We had 5 bids submitted, and we awarded the bid to Mass Tank Inspection Services, and that total was $24,700. So that was a very
lower than I thought it'd be.
Very good price. Yeah, we were happy to see that.
Gas inside, you can use it.
Yeah. Maybe that's why the price is so low.
It's filled, yeah.
And then we're finalizing the bid specifications for the disposition of the building itself. So we hope to have that finalized by the end of the month or early October. One item of note that we've tried to advertise, Eversource as a small business, no-cost energy assessment that they're doing in Dartmouth in particular. They're doing it through the month of September. Business owners can schedule a no-cost, no-obligation energy assessment with Complete Energy Services. That's the authorized agent for Eversource. The team will come out they're going to be out visiting businesses Monday, September 19th through Friday, September 30th to provide the no-cost assessment.
It's absolutely worth doing.
Yeah, so we encourage business owners to partner with them. Fuel assistance. The fuel assistance program has restarted and expanded to include all sources of heating, natural gas, oil, propane, electricity. The application is now online. If anyone's interested or in need of assistance, the COA can assist. And the flyer is posted on our website. And talking to Cody right now, we've already received 73 applications within 2 days of being posted online. So there is a need out there. We're trying to fill it. And then you heard Gary talking earlier about the home buyer assistance program. So when we hear about these programs, we really try to get the word out, whether they're Dartmouth-specific programs or through the state. So we encourage people to check our website and watch these meetings so they can get the word out. And lastly, staff training. We've partnered with the Mass Municipal Association. They have a certificate program, a graduate certificate program that they partner with Suffolk University. They have been looking for space to provide the training. We have it here. As you know, you've all been in our new training room. So starting Friday, September 16th, for every Friday for, I think, 20 weeks, the MMA in Suffolk will be hosting that certificate program for a number of students coming from different municipalities in the state. The benefit to this is that obviously we're providing training, but also we get courtesy enrollment into these trainings that Suffolk and MMA provide. So we look forward to doing more of those trainings together and having our staff trained as well. So,
what is the certificate on?
Public administration. So it'd be a graduate level. If the students in the class pursue a master's in public administration, they receive credits towards that master's degree. Yes. And that is all I have.
That was a lot.
I have 2 comments on the report. It's an amazing amount of information, very exciting stuff going on, and I congratulate you on accepting the challenge. The second comment is I want to also congratulate Mr. McDonald because I think the initiation of this report came from him, and I think it's working good, and I congratulate you both for doing it, so thank you both.
I'm always happy to, tell about
Keep
everything
people
we're doing in
informed.
town. There's a lot going on, a lot of staff working very hard, so it's nice to be able to promote that. So.
Any questions or comments? Moving on. Ms. McDonald, keep going. Old business. Mr. McGinnis.
Yes, COVID, Bliss Corner, Lake Nokichoke, and the no new updates. Municipal broadband, no new updates other than the feasibility study is on the town meeting warrant to be funded.
I have something to say on Bliss Corner.
Okay.
So a couple of weeks ago, I took a tour with Mr. Michaud of the work happening in that Bliss Corner area, and I wanted to commend the work of Chris Michaud, also DPH and DEP. As I stated in an email to members of the board, at the time, we had the only mobile testing site available through the EPA in Dartmouth. New England has one testing site. We had it at the time of my tour, so I could see the work being done and the turnaround within the day of getting information about the soil samples and whether the digging needed to go deeper, needed to go broader, or they had hit clean soil. That truck, or mobiles, is no longer here. It's been moved, but now the soil samples take a week to get tested in a physical lab. So we were really very lucky to have it for as long as we did, and I don't know, I'm sure throughout New England, as I said, not just Massachusetts, but this is the only site, the only mobile lab they have available to all of New England, which just seems ridiculous. But I toured a site that has already been remediated and resodded, and if I had not known or been told that that site had completed, because the sod was in and they were taking care of watering it, the owner's property looked 100%.
They're not watering it now, though.
They're not watering it, but they're taking care of it. But I also was able to look at a site that was in process, and watching the digging of the soil, which I want to say the majority of was glass bottles. There is no way that this was a homeowner throwing out some trash. It's very clear the areas that they're looking at were dump sites. And I mean, it's just, that's all you can hear as the bucket goes down, is just glass, glass, glass. And because they're glass bottles, most were intact. So you have these growlers, what we'd call them now, with something inside that, and then they pick those out. All kinds of colors of glass. It was just amazing. But to see how they have dug down, and you can see the layers that they're digging and how they're staying within the property, just the care of the work that these men and women are doing is phenomenal. And again, they're looking at, we have 5 sites that in Dartmouth that have been identified. They've looked at other sites and tested other sites, and lucky for those homeowners, their sites were clean. But it's very interesting that it may have happened at this homeowner's property, but not this homeowner's property. So it really, the folks in the area really should contact and want to be tested, because it will just lay their mind at ease. Just because their neighbor's house tested positive, or when you say negative, doesn't mean their property will. But I do commend the efforts of the entire organization. I saw where they're bringing the contaminated soil, and we reviewed how that is leaving our area. And then I saw the soil and where they're getting the soil in town and how that is tested, it's perfectly clean. When done, these 5 properties will have the cleanest soil in Dartmouth and be remediated, perfectly. But it was several hours, this tour. There were several people on tour, and it was so informative, and it was so nice to see the professionalism and these people who are interfacing with the resident who has all these concerns about a property that they've been living on, but their care and their explanation processes to those residents, it was excellent. And on that note, we talked at that day that they need to get more information out to residents. And so DCTV is going to be working with them on a broadcast, which would be about 10, 15 minutes, which will include a little bit of a site tour and a look at the remediated properties so that people will know
Some of the process and how they do
the
it.
process.
Right.
Because some people have not come forth saying, please test my property. It was excellent. So DCTV and Chris Michaud are working on that this week. It will be filmed, and then it will be put out on all social media. So I just wanted everyone to know that.
Ms. Brooks, once again,
Good job.
your impact on this committee and the work you do for our town is so much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We have minutes to approve?
No.
That's correct. Just testing you.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm still-
We'll look at them next time.
Yes.
Okay, they're moments, not minutes at this point in time. Okay. Anybody have anything they want to update as far as the select board comments at this point in time? Well, we're running out of gas here.
I know, but I
We have
will-
some announcements.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll use them.
Ms.
in
Brooks
announcements.
wants to do that.
Go ahead, Ms. Brooks.
Well, the one thing I want to let everyone know that I attended an MMA legislative recap webinar last Friday, and I will share this information with you. It talked about the work being done on MBTA, which has limited impact on us, but the Department of Revenue's collections press release and the preliminary cherry sheet estimates were very interesting, and the state is over their funding, and so they're looking at ways to get that money back to Massachusetts taxpayers. So that's excess revenue returned to the taxpayers. This is only the second time since that cap went on in 1986. We had excess revenue in 1987, and this is the only second time in the history
By
of
law,
that.
they
By law.
have to
Yep.
return that money, yes. Yeah.
So it's, that's hopeful.
Yeah.
So very interesting. The economic development bill, some information on cannabis, transportation. It was very interesting. So I will forward you the recap email so that you can read it as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Announcements or comments or updates from select board members? Mr. McDonald? Mr.
No, I'm good.
Nicholson? Mr. Gracie?
Is it still Monday?
What?
Is it still Monday?
Is it still Monday?
Freshy.
Close.
We covered a lot of ground today,
Close.
there's no doubt about it.
Only a
Okay.
few more hours left.
Anything else? I would entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn? Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.